legal significance and are imperative, only those that are literally quoted in the text in the body of Constitution. That sentence about which our colleagues from Azerbaijan have concerns is not quoted in our Constitution. There is only a general reference to the Declaration of Independence, saying that based on Declaration of Independence, the people of Armenia declares this, and then the body of Constitution. So, again, legally, in the world, there is only one body that has the right to interpret, to comment our Constitution, and it is the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Armenia. And last September, our Constitutional Court gave a conclusion regarding another document which was signed between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the regulation of joint works of respective border commissions on delimitation, basically. And in this regulation, it is mentioned that the delimitation is taking place on the basis of Almaty Declaration, which says the same, more or less the same sentence, that our borders are the same borders that existed between us as Soviet Socialist republics at the time of dissolution of Soviet Union. So once, last September, our Constitutional Court said, and it is a public document, that this principle, the principle of borders, which also means that we do not have territorial claims beyond that borders, this principle is fully complying to our Constitution, and that's it. So now, if we sign this treaty, this again, within the process of ratification, this agreement will go to the Constitutional Court. If our Constitutional Court once again says that this document complies with our Constitution, another proof that the issue is covered, addressed, there is no obstacle. If theoretically our Constitutional Court will say something else, that will be another situation. We will come back to you and we will discuss other possibilities. That's it. But again, you know, it's a matter of political will. It's a matter of orientation. It's a matter of focusing the subject on which we are focusing. Are we building peace? Are we going to use the opportunities, or are we going to close the process having the concerns? If we do have will to use the opportunities, we will find a way. By the way, and again, yeah, that's it. I'm sorry, Maka, I was a little bit longer this would be
a great time to get Georgia's perspective now, because it does sound like we are at a bit of an impasse, even though a peace deal was agreed last month. Maka Botchorishvili, Georgia has expressed interest in playing a mediating role in the region. How can Georgia facilitate dialogue and cooperation among South Caucasus countries? And what specific initiatives or projects is Georgia promoting to enhance regional integration?
Thank you very much. First of all, it is my privilege to be here and to participate to Antalya Diplomacy Forum. And that's a great honor to be here together with my dear colleagues from Azerbaijan and Armenia. Well, for Georgia, peaceful and secure South Caucasus is an important priority. We do acknowledge that our region has huge potential, and in order to fully exploit that potential, we do need sustainable peace and long-lasting peace in our region. So that's why we welcome, first of all, the agreement on peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia. This is, I do believe, that big achievement. And we also need to highlight that traditionally exceptional good relationship that Georgia enjoys to have with both neighbors, Armenia and Azerbaijan. With Azerbaijan, for decades, we have a strategic partnership based on that friendship and very good cooperation. And this is a very strong asset that we have in the region. With Armenia, again, we enjoyed traditionally very good relationship, which was upgraded recently to strategic partnership. And this is also a very big asset that Georgia has in this situation. And we have sincere interest to promote peace and stability in our region. And that's why we are always saying, and I will repeat it here, that Georgia is the place where both Armenia and Azerbaijan can rely on and can feel that we will provide all possible means to facilitate dialogue in our region, to facilitate cooperation in our region. As I mentioned from the beginning, South Caucasus has huge potential regionally to promote different partnerships and to contribute to wider peace, security, stability, economic cooperations. And we need to cooperate among ourselves to find common topics, to find common issues. That is kind of our daily life in our region, and to start talking about that. And that is, I think, essential that we can do at this stage. And again, Tbilisi is always ready, and I will repeat it here, on any level, on any topic, to start and facilitate conversation. I will not start listing of the issues that we can discuss. There are plenty of things that we need to cooperate, we need to discuss among ourselves, and I do believe that first thing, that political will and intention from both sides that exists, and we do see that that exists, is essential to promote that dialogue between South Caucasus countries. I would not exclude Georgia, and I would not put Georgia only as a kind of country that is in the middle, that is talking to Armenia or talking to Azerbaijan and trying to play that only mediating role. This is our life as well, and we consider that we are also part of this process on an equal kind of level, because this is our common interest to promote peace, security, stability, and good cooperation in our region.
Thank you, Minister. At this point, I'd like to hand the floor over to our responder from the floor, Nigar Göksel. She's the Turkey Director at the International Crisis Group. Nigar, a lot to digest there. Please give us your thoughts. There we go. Yes. Oh, one moment. Sorry.
It's a great privilege to follow the distinguished ministers on this very significant platform. I see my role today as weaving together some of the threads that they've laid out, my takeaways, and adding some reflections from the peace and security debates about this issue that are taking place elsewhere. So let me begin by celebrating and congratulating the ministers of Azerbaijan and Armenia for agreeing on the peace deal text. I know that that took an enormous amount of intellectual effort as well as political leadership. And I think it's particularly noteworthy that it happened without external brokering, so that it was a bilateral process. And I think this also points to the regional ownership factor that the Turkish diplomacy has been underlining. I'd also like to take note of Azerbaijan's long-time investment into proactively pursuing the connectivity projects in the region, starting from Baku-Ceyhan and now evolving into the Middle Corridor. Frankly, I think Baku gets little acknowledgement from the actors that are benefiting from its focus on this for a long time. I think the prevailing rationale today is that folding Armenia into this web of infrastructure and opportunity can create some immunity, not only for Armenia, but for all of us, in terms of guarding against the potential spoilers of regional stability. And those spoilers can come from inside, and they can come from outside, actors that would want to exploit the vulnerability. And I think I hear a very common interest, both on the panel and elsewhere, that regional integration is in everybody's interest. I think it's a matter of sequencing, as we've heard today, what comes first and what comes next, and that is also a matter of trust. But before I go a little bit deeper into that, I'd like to say a few words about the geostrategic context, because that hasn't been mentioned much, and I think it is actually one of the dimensions that adds the time sensitivity to this process being concluded. We don't know how the US-Russia alignment is going to evolve. We don't know how the Israel-Iran showdown is going to play out. We see Europe is trying to adapt to a new geopolitical landscape and is exploring ways to converge with Turkey, but we don't know how that's going to play out either. So I think there's a sense that the Caucasus region is going to feel the winds of these unpredictable changes, and we should be prepared for that by already having consolidated amongst ourselves as the Caucasus and its neighbors. Now to pass on to the more sensitive topics that have been discussed. I'm aware that Baku doesn't trust that enough Armenians have given up on reclaiming Karabakh unless they change the reference to this in their constitution or declaration of independence that's in the constitution. And I also see that many Armenians don't trust that such a change will be reciprocated with concrete gains. I think that Armenia is feeling vulnerable economically and security-wise, and the more it seeks support from the West because of this, the more it deepens Baku's distrust. So there's a sense of a vicious cycle that we're facing. Given how far the peace process has come, and if this is the last unresolved issue, I think a lot of observers are worrying that a stalling over this is going to risk the window of opportunity closing because of the geopolitical shifts and some domestic dissatisfaction that we see building in Armenia as well. So all we really need to ask is whether we might look back and say, had we moved ahead then, we might have had lasting peace versus unraveling. So I guess my question to Azerbaijan is that if this constitutional change can only realistically happen in 2027, which is some of the debates are saying so, then are there interim steps or creative workarounds that can be taken to keep the momentum alive, particularly regarding connectivity, because the connectivity talks have stalled ever since Russia got engaged more in Ukraine, whereas the continuation of progress of that track of talks could actually continue in parallel about the railways and the highways and whatnot. I also would like to sort of note here that, of course, aspirations are not eliminated by clauses in legal declarations. They might actually fade more likely through normalization and integration, though there's no guarantee for that either. And I guess my question to Yerevan, to the Minister of Armenia, is that given how fragile the trust is, are there ways that the Armenian leadership could reassure its counterparts in Baku that Armenia's current path is irreversible, even if political winds at home change or political winds in the region change? I think there's a sense of fragility that I pick up as such in Baku that is grounded, I guess, in past experiences. I think the irony today, and I'm going to close with this, is that if Armenia doesn't feel secure or doesn't have an economic lifeline because of its borders being closed, then it becomes more vulnerable to external manipulation, which is exactly the outcome that Azerbaijan seeks to avoid. And of course, it's a risk to Turkey's potential role for stabilizing and developing the Caucasus region as well. And I also like to note that it's naive to believe that trade and connectivity can neutralize revanchism, but neither can isolation reduce it. So I think we're left with no wonderful answers, perhaps, but some food for thought, perhaps, that can be taken up in the rounds to go.
Minister Mirzoyan, would you like to respond?
Well, that was an interesting contribution. Thank you. Of course, I can agree with some of the approaches and considerations and disagree with the others. But in one specific part, you were very precise. The Armenian society feels vulnerable indeed in terms of security first, but also in terms of economic cooperation or closed borders. An ordinary citizen of Republic of Armenia can hear several assurances from the government of Republic of Armenia in the same day, assurances regarding the peace agenda, assurances and proposals to build peace with the neighbors, to open the borders, to turn the page of enmity in the region, to open a new era. And we all remember that there are still very sensitive issues. The wounds are very fresh, and it's difficult to speak about possible cooperation. But an ordinary citizen of Republic of Armenia can hear or watch in his her newsfeed, in his her daily life, many assurances about this. At the same time, an ordinary citizen of Republic of Armenia, in the very same day, can hear several threats, including threats to, again, to use the force, including threats not to acknowledge the territorial integrity, including threats which contain some claims on internationally recognized territorial integrity of Republic of Armenia from the Azerbaijani side. I don't know, on the level of member of a parliament, on the level of the media outlet strongly affiliated with the government, on the level of high officials. So there is this threat in the air. There is a choice for us, for our Azerbaijani friends, for our Georgian friends, for our Turkish friends. There is a choice. To wait for another 100 or 200 years to see that the changes are irreversible, or to start a process of putting a brick and then another brick and then another brick, and in this way building a peaceful region here. Establish cooperation, I don't know, energy projects, transit projects. You touched upon the topic of the connectivity. I can also elaborate a little bit more on that. Internet cables, I don't know, tourism. There are so many ways of cooperation. And I believe Georgia can lead the region here. We can connect the two societies. Not only, I mean, the two societies of Armenia and Azerbaijan, but Georgia, but Turkey. We live in the 21st century. Again, it's a matter, and my hope is that I'm expressing this idea precisely. It's a matter of choice. You can wait for another 200 years, or you can start putting bricks and building a solid wall. We choose cooperation. But we cannot cooperate with ourselves. There should be another neighbor on the other side willing to cooperate with us as well. For instance, not to sound too, I don't know, idealistic and avoiding concrete details. I will bring an example. We just made a proposal to Azerbaijan regarding connectivity, according to which they gain access to our railway infrastructure. We gain access to their regional railway infrastructure. We understand that there is 45 kilometers in the south of Armenia, which is possibly, obviously, the shortest way to connect two parts of Azerbaijan. And we suggested to use, I don't know, modern technologies there, electronic scanners, which will allow us to avoid physical check of the goods, of the cargo, to use electronic declarations which can be sent, information which could be exchanged between respective agencies, again, allowing us to have this transit at its maximum possible speed, etc., etc. We made a very concrete proposal. No positive answer. Probably they have their grounded concerns, I don't know, but it's a matter of choice. Thank you.
Okay. I'll ask Minister Bayramov to respond to that. Any response to what this minister has said?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for your analysis. And then you raised the topic and the issue of connectivity, what can be done at this stage. And I can confirm that this is the long standing position and you know, the elements of the foreign policy of Azerbaijan is the best way to promote the security and well-being. This is good relations with your neighbors. And of course, economic integration. I mean, from this perspective, not only transport connectivity, you know, transit, but also energy project, electricity cables, etc. So this is something which makes you interdependent in a good sense with your neighboring countries. And this is not only, let's say, the policy as a whole. This is something which has been successfully implemented by Azerbaijan with all neighboring countries. When we talk about East-West Middle Corridor, what, for instance, Azerbaijan, Georgia, together with Turkey did, this is not something which changed the region. This is not something which was very positive for the well-being of our people and societies. This is something which changed the whole map of the region, you know, the major oil, gas, pipeline, you know, east-west transportation corridor. The most recent example, this is of course implementation of Southern Gas Corridor. The second stage, with the finalization of which the number of countries which became the recipients of Azerbaijani gas from the Caspian Sea increased from 2 at the end of 2020 to 12 today, when on top of Georgia and Turkey, this is also 10 additional European countries. At the same time, we are quite actively expanding the north-south corridor, also with participation of Russian Federation and Iran. For all those years, due to the policy of Armenia, Armenia was out from all these projects, because I think one cannot imagine that when you have this type of conflict and occupation of your territory, you will be in a, let's say, economic engagement with the country. And of course, from the recent developments, and that's why at the beginning I said that the new opportunities finally raise with the end of the armed conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But we sincerely believe that the process should be finalized in a proper way. So this is something which has the real ground, which has the legal value, and which is irreversible. My colleague mentioned, and when you hear Minister Mirzoyan, this is really very nice statements. And we hear many, let's say, nice statements. Minister Mirzoyan made a reference to the recent decision of the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Armenia, and Minister Mirzoyan in his statements several times said a reference to several hundred years ago. I will not be making reference to the several hundred years. I will make several references to something which happened only after November 2020, which is the end of the Second Karabakh War. Mr. Mirzoyan did not mention that when we talk about the importance and seriousness of this territorial claim in Armenian constitution, this is not something hypothetical. Based on this narrative, after November 2020, between Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan, there are many international disputes in International Court of Justice, in international arbitration bodies, etc. There are a bunch of documents where recently, in 2021, in 2022, in 2024, the Republic of Armenia continues to submit the document which, based on the same narrative which exists in the Armenian constitution, put under question territorial integrity and sovereignty of Azerbaijan. So this is the recent document. Of course, the statements, they are all good and nice, but there are more important stuff. And when Minister Mirzoyan mentions about, I don't know, some of the threats from the member of, I don't know, parliaments of some NGOs, of course, in ideal world, of course, it's better, to have only the nice statements. But I believe that the more important, position representing the state should be taken into account and should be eliminated if we seriously talk about the finalization of this process, coming to the logical end, and after this, it will really open many additional opportunities for the whole region in a, let's say, holistic way. About the transportation, and Mr. Minister mentioned about some recent proposal from the Republic of Armenia with regard to the opening of the transportation tools. I just wanted to mention a couple of facts. The first, the opening of communication between Republic of, between us. It was a proposal of Azerbaijan to be included in the trilateral declaration of November 2020. There is general statement about opening of communication between two countries, and there's a very specific reference about the unimpeded access from the western borders of Azerbaijan with its Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic. So because in Azerbaijan we have a unique situation, and the unique situation is that we have two parts of the country which are, separated from each other. And there are all around 40 kilometers of the, let's say, territory of Armenia. This railroad existed back in Soviet time. This railroad, by the way, back in Soviet time, was the part of the Azerbaijan Republic railroad system because it was, the very short part, which was, managed by the Azerbaijani railroad system. During the negotiations in January 2021, until, the active phase was until 2023, then there was, some gap in the negotiations. We did many, let's say, proposals in order to resolve this situation. We agreed to separate highway part from the railroad in order to, let's say, to put on the second stage the more, let's say, complicated part for the Republic of Armenia. But notwithstanding, every time we saw some of the proposals which, from our perspective, and based on the previous agreement which we have in 2020, put under question, let's say, the reliability and stability of this. We do not want to be in the situation when we agree about something, and in 1-2 year period of time, due to some, changes in Armenian legislation, due to some, changes in Armenian power, we will face the same situation which we faced, 30 years ago when the conflict started, and, Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic become a hostage of this situation. That's why, so when we talk about from Azerbaijan to Azerbaijan, for us this is absolutely crucial, that this is unimpeded access, with all the necessary guarantees that this situation is irreversible and it does not depend on the, political or legal changes in Armenia.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Nigar Göksel, for that. We are running out of time, but I would like to get one last perspective from Minister Botchorishvili. The issue of shifting global alliances was mentioned. That is evident in the South Caucasus. We're seeing the West retreat somewhat from trying to influence affairs in the South Caucasus. We know the 3+3 dialogue being spearheaded by Russia and Turkey has been looking to fill that void. This is the dialogue involving the countries on the stage here, as well as the biggest neighbors of Iran, Turkey and Russia. Under the previous administration in Georgia, they had refused to become involved in the 3+3. Might you reconsider that stance and joining?
I would refer to that format 3+2 because Georgia is not part of that format, but it is that's always referred as 3+3. Georgia is not part of this format, and we cooperate with all the neighbors except of Russia, and it has reason because Georgia's two regions remain occupied by Russian Federation, and we still have unaccepted military presence on these two regions, from Russian Federation. So this is the reason where we cannot and we are not considering to be part of this format. We have only one format with Russian Federation. This is Geneva International Discussions, where Georgia and Russia are talking to each other over the conflict, and there are United States, United Nations, OSCE, European Union represented in that format, and this is a very valuable format for us that allows us to discuss conflict-related issues. Otherwise, when we talk about region and regional cooperation, we have excellent cooperation with our other neighbors, with Armenia, with Azerbaijan, with Turkey, and we have excellent examples of that good cooperation. With Turkey, with Azerbaijan, we have implemented a number of important projects throughout decades that are very important for a small region, but they are also very important for wider region. And well, when we're talking about kind of diversity also in the region, we have plenty of opportunities in that diversity. Like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, maybe we are different in many terms, but we have to find, especially when it comes, for example, foreign policy priorities. For decades, Georgia is pursuing a European integration path. We want to be part of the European Union. That allowed Georgia to bring into Georgian legislation more European standards and align more with European economic area. That is also an asset that could be beneficial for whole region, and we are ready for cooperation with our neighbors in that terms as well, and to contribute to more regional cooperation and regional projects. But this is not the format of 3+3.
It's good to get that clarification. I'm afraid that does bring us to the end of this discussion. Can we please thank our distinguished guests, Ararat Mirzoyan, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Armenia, Jeyhun Bayramov, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Azerbaijan, and Maka Botchorishvili, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Georgia. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you.